All right. Hello, everyone. It's Rodin again, and we're here for Eve Station Rating episode 30. All right. Really looking forward to this one. I think a lot of folks should be heading their way up to Eve Vegas right now, or at least the early birds are. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to this one. Really looking forward to go over the items from last week. This is like a few weeks in a row where we've really come across some pretty good stuff. Right. So we'll go over our prediction reviews right now. So the first one we're going to be going over is the Omen Navy issue. We basically did a Mar faction warfare. It's almost predominantly a Mar faction warfare picks last week, just simply because of how depressed the tiers are, like consistently, and it's really increasing their value. Just the sheer nature of, um, the value that increases when it gets harder to collect that kind of LP. All right, so we called this as a buy from last week. It hasn't really changed much. It's still working on some pretty good margin. It's quite flat. Quite flat, but a really good trading channel. Let's see, 70. Let's call it 76 to 82. There's some profit there. Yep. Pretty consistent. So I would, yeah, I mean, it's not crazy high profit margins, but definitely consistent. So I think that's still a good buy. Next one is the Apocalypse Navy issue. Typically a low volume item anyway, but as far as profit margins go, it's honestly not bad. It's honestly not bad. I would probably, let's see. It should still be pretty healthy margins. There's still Mar's still at tier 1 anyway. 361 to 389. Okay. Let's see. It's still at the, yeah, I mean, If you're comfortable with your money being locked up in this item, I would probably buy into this, to be honest, and sell it off when the sell signals come up. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. It seems to have found a pretty solid floor right here. So yeah, I think it's a pretty decent call still. All right, next item. Well, that's all for our buys. For our sells, we called Imperial Navy 1600 millimeter steel plate. We called it a sell since it was just genuine sell signals. It's coming back down, so if you were able to sell it from last week, you should have been in pretty good shape. Let's see if it's still got some margins left on it. Not much. Margin's pretty much gone, simply because the moving averages are starting to converge. There's really not much in there. Like, I wouldn't touch this now unless you're just straight selling it. Yeah, there's just no profit basically on flipping this. So definitely not an item to be intraday flipped. All right, next one is the Imperial Navy Acolyte. When it comes to faction items, drones are so consistent. They just are. They're really good. Just need to be able to play the volume. Still pretty fat margins. Wow. when we called this, it was like right around here. So it went down to the buy zone. But then, even though it's technically showing buy signals, the Donchian channel is so wide that it's kind of all over the place in intraday sense. So it's worthwhile just to go off of the profit, just to go off of the margins on the, like, honestly, just the daily margins. It's huge. It's a huge difference. Like right now, it's crazy. It's crazy high. It's so volatile. If you're okay playing with something so volatile, this might be a good item for you. All right, and the last one we're going to look at as far as reviews will be the Imperial Navy Curator. It's kind of waned a little bit. It kind of started dying out as soon as I made that call, which is pretty unfortunate. Hopefully someone was able to take advantage of the just lack of availability in the market. That's definitely not the case anymore. If you remember from last week, it wasn't even a full page. It was like maybe half of a page, and now it's quite up there. It definitely was in that, yeah. So we call it like right around here. It's fine. For the most part, I call it not necessarily based on our charts, but based on the actual availability. So, yeah. It was a very short-lived good spot, that's for sure. I might have got caught. I myself might have gotten caught in it. So I might have to wait. I might have to wait. I think I was a little bit too aggressive again on my orders. So. All right. So before we get started with our just a few items to go over here. So I want to talk about PLEX real quick. Not last week, but the week before, we were talking about. We called out PLEX simply because it seems to be displaying that it's sitting on a pretty solid floor at 3 million, and I kind of just want to go over that. Over the weekend, there was an extractor sale, a very short-lived extractor sale. Okay. And during that time, or before the extractor sale for the weekend happened, I actually called out my own exit point. So I bought a whole bunch of PLEX, relatively speaking, for about 3 million, and I was saying, oh, I'd be comfortable selling this at 3.2. It actually reached 3.2 just for the weekend, mind you, just for basically the sale period. All right, so I'm gonna go over kind of why that was. All right. So an extractor sale. So as the extractor sale was happening, folks were actually cashing out their injectors. They're cashing out their injectors in order to buy more extractors, and that's what was causing the rise in PLEX to as high as 3.2. It wasn't holding it consistently, but it was good enough, honestly, for some folks to be able to cash out, to reasonably cash out over the weekend. Now, if you bought it at 3 or even lower than that, I think most people would have bought it right around 3 million. That's about a net 3 to 4% profit for you, assuming you have bought and sold it in a near 0% tax citadel. If you're doing it in JITA itself, you're looking at much slimmer profit margins, closer to like 1 to 2%. But depending on the volume that you have, it might have been a really big payout for you. All right, so what is it looking like now? It's back to 3.1. So, however, what that does tell me is it's a pretty solid, it reinforces the 3 million is mark to be a pretty solid floor. And let's go over that real quick. It makes it a little easier if I can actually show you the pictures. Show pictures. Okay, it's basically back to 3. Like literally, like not even 2 hours ago, this was 3 to 3.1. It's pretty amazing. Right, so for the longest, so this is 90. This is the 89 no 90-day picture. There you go, 90-day picture. So it goes ebbs and flows, and then it's basically sat here the last almost 30 days, and it just won't. It really won't go below this point, below this 3 mil point, which is good. So it makes me feel really good about the purchases that I made. And extractor sale happened, increased the value of the PLEX because of its relationship to injectors and extractors, like I've explained before. And right now it's back to 3. So if you honestly, I mean, this really reinforces my call to have bought this at 3. If you're in a position to actually buy PLEX right now in volume, I would buy this if you can still get it at 3. No higher, no higher. You really want to give yourself as much room as possible. So if you can get it at as close to 3 mil flat as possible, via buy. Honestly, looking at the thing right now, you could probably get it right at sell. You can get it right at sell, to be honest. And it's it's a tax-free kind of sell anyway, so yeah, why not? Or just about near tax-free. And just wait through winter. That's the key thing, though. You're gonna have to wait through winter time. So we can see that, given a little bit of nudge from short-lived sales over a weekend, it wasn't even a PLEX sale. It was an extractor sale. All right, and it'll very quickly react, very very quickly react. So it's incredibly volatile to external forces, more so in this current state where it's literally riding the floor of what people are willing to pay for this thing. To be honest, as something to be used, like for my sub, 3 mil is kind of high. Yeah, I mean 3 mil, that's a bit over a bill, and I don't know if my sub is worth that. To be honest, I think I'm more comfortable paying real money and just getting ISK out of it. That's just me though. Not really. Yeah. This is a good, I think 3 mil is a good spot to exchange it for ISK, but not me personally, not a good spot in order for me to exchange it for a sub. But all right. Realistically, where am I still comfortable calling 3.2 my exit point? To be honest, now that I saw how it reacts on extractor sale, I'm pretty confident this can crack well above that in winter. I'm pretty sure it'll actually be close to 3.3 consistently, 3.3, 3.4 consistently, and have it plateau on that end. I'm pretty confident that's gonna happen. Oh, check up a docs. Oh, Methos. All right, man. Hopefully doing well. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's tough to see, but I'm fairly confident I can comfortably offload my batches of PLEX for like 3.3, 3.4 easily in the wintertime. I'm looking for more opportunities to actually buy more of them, to be honest. All right, some quick self promo things here. I made another kind of market lesson, I guess you can call that. Oh, yeah, man. No, I'm not gonna be in FanFest or anything, so I can definitely do the broadcast. Most everybody's out there already, at least the early birds, I imagine. All right, I just linked there in chat. That's my latest market lesson. Yeah, Geek's like, lessons. Yeah, I did that. This one was about short-term versus long-term trading. I was very surprised that there was actually. I thought wouldn't be that much that interesting to you guys, to be honest. But I was kind of surprised there was actually positive feedback from it. So yeah, it's great. I'm definitely gonna continue with that. I'm not sure what else I really need to cover before I really go into the charting bit. I really think that because I'd hate to lose people when it comes to the charting because there wasn't enough base material to really cover. So I think we're getting about ready. To be honest, I have to figure out exactly how to present the charting part, the charting lessons, because the in-game interface is not very well equipped to show general charting. It's incredibly limited in what the in-game market window can show. So, but sometimes, like personally, I prefer to interact with the game in game. I'm not a big tools guy. I prefer to look at it as as what's being presented naturally in the game. You're kind of seeing it as in its natural state, I think, when you do that, as opposed to getting all these tools together. And oftentimes, if you're not up to, if you don't pull that piece of information um, soon enough, I mean, it's not you're not playing with real time information anymore. But I'm looking at the charts as I'm playing the game. I'm able to react in real time. There's value in that, definitely. Eek says just now selling shitload of different assets. Okay, most boring shit ever. Probably lost terrible amount of discs. Uh and I mean, to be honest, I've done that before. When I was buying up a whole lot of stuff from buyback programs from Horde. Eventually, like the good stuff gets bought very quickly, right? Like within a day or two. Considering the sheer volume, yeah, it's actually pretty amazing how quickly it gets bought up. But as it dwindles down, it gets to the more not used modules, but you don't really want to just sell them straight up, or sorry, you don't want to just reprocess them because they're very low reprocessing value. And you just have them sit there, and then you just have to decide whether, hey, what's more valuable, just getting this off of the wallet and just get some money out of it, or continue to manage the orders for it. He said, I thought I had buffer of ISK. I was mistaken. It happens, man. It happens. It happens. It really does. It really does, man. Yeah. So on that lesson, we talked about short-term versus long-term trading. Kind of like it was really fundamental. It was really more into the fundamental analysis again, and talked about how I basically transitioned from being a very active short-term trader, like one ISK warrior, to what I do right now, which is much longer time horizon calls, which is good. I think I definitely like the passive nature of how I trade now. It's not nearly as stressful. I'm looking forward to that lesson. Yeah, to be honest, man, like I think the longer I do this, the more to me it becomes less about the money, and it becomes more about the process. Like I'm starting to value a good process much more than net profit. Because I think if you have a good process, profit kind of just becomes uh, it's inevitable, right? That you're gonna have profit if you have a good process. That's how I see it, at least. All right, and for those of you guys who are into Albion, another one I did another one of those auction house snapshot, and I my for my very first attempt at trying to do something like that for Eve, I think is gonna be a Tech 3 production sheet. I think that's gonna be the first thing I'm gonna attempt to do. I'm not quite sure how to do the sheet part yet. I have an idea of how to do it. It just looks like it's gonna be too big of a sheet to actually be digestible in like a stream format. It might be better off as an article, to be honest, but we'll see. because I think being able to do what I do in Albion, where I get to look at a specific part of the market, like as a category, and kind of and devote more time to dissect it. I wish I could do that for Eve, for this show format. I just don't think I can, because like the production web and market web is just so vast. I just don't have the scope to do it. So, but I will attempt to do so. But I think I will start off with Tech 3 production. I'm actually more knowledgeable on that versus, say, Tech 2 production, since I'm not really a Moon guy. All right, and one other thing, actually, just from the last episode, I voiced to you guys, hey, I'm looking for a corp, because I left Wrecking Machine because of like time zone issues and stuff, and I actually found one. And I'm actually now in Valkyrie Knights, which is a member corp in UI Federation in Providence. Yeah, but it's just so it's so weird and so cool at the same time to actually be back in Provi, but as a resident again. I was a resident in Provi before. I actually enjoyed it. I really did. Um, and it feels good to actually be back. It feels good to be back in Provi. It feels good to be back in Null in general, and it feels good to actually uh, be in a Null group where I hopefully will have an opportunity to exercise some of my market skills. Yeah, probably is a really great place to be. I was a bit. I'm really curious as to how the turnover to the outposts into faction Fortizars is gonna roll. Or but I'm that part. I'm really looking forward to see how the residents, how we manage that. The scope of how we're gonna do that. And I'm looking forward to actually being able to participate in more objective focused fights, whether it's defensively or offensively. But it's just so different, the type of ships and comps and strategies you employ in nullsec versus anywhere else. I'm fairly knowledgeable on the anywhere else part. Null, I actually have like disgustingly low experience on it. Eagles is probably going to suffer. I if I were to remove myself from the position of being a Pravi resident and looking into that situation, I must agree with you. I must agree with you, because that is a lot of potentially faction Fortizars either to have to deal with, right? And by deal with, I mean, do you pick it up and leave and just stash it somewhere, or do you actually deploy it? And by deploying it, do you risk its destruction? But how much do you really value it if it hasn't really it's not really technically born yet anyway, you know? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to actually be able to be able to more intelligently relay nullsec relevant market information to you guys. I hopefully will be able to do that. And I don't think any of that stuff is gonna be like OPSEC. I don't think so. I mean, just if it's something as simple as what's the kind of stuff that sells well in nullsec. Now I'll actually be able to know from firsthand experience, right? Apart from just what previously my only experience with that kind of stuff is being the buying end of a buyback program. Right? So looking forward to be able to put a nullsec spin in these types of presentations for you guys. Probably it's gonna suffer. I totally agree. I think it's gonna suffer. There's gonna be some losses. I think it's net loss versus net win. To be honest, even yeah, the scope of it is gonna be the better question, I think. Oh, one quick it was incredibly obvious to me that I haven't been to NullSec in a while. That once I actually got accepted, I have to go through all these like forums and like verifications for comms. Like, this is probably why I haven't been to NullSec in literally years, because of like, man, can't you guys just take a blood sample and be done with it? Null, Eek says, Null is a nice place to rip off mindless rather, so nice choice. Dude, the money I made on the buyback program for Horde, kind of like as a partner, not as a direct contact. Sick. It's sickening how much value they put on the things that they work on. Sickening. They have such little value for things outside of just liquid money going into their wallet. You know, it's kind of sad. At the same time, it's like, I mean, I kind of get it. You know, it's like there's just so much money out there in nullsec. When someone, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, the idea of a poor nullsec person doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. That means you're incredibly inactive for one. As far as in like legit in-game stuff, you may be rich in social interactions, but hey, man, that doesn't mean like you're pretty inactive as a game, as a player in a game. I think if you're a poor nullsec player, it could just be a bad group too. All right, so that's really all I wanted to cover before we get started with our picks. I think we got some pretty interesting picks. I was kind of surprised how I came upon these picks, to be honest. All right, so we're gonna go through our buys. I'm gonna start with the Caldari Navy Wardens. This item, he says, usually it's easier to buy highly overpriced stuff and rat a bit than wait for a better deal. Yeah, that's true. Looking forward to, I definitely want to be able to speak to you guys, to speak more intelligently about, because null markets, to me, it still feels like it's like barter, like a one-on-one bartering. You know, it's still based on relationships, not so much the overt buying and selling in a station. Yeah, it's all about them ticks, man. Time is money. Them ticks. Yep. All right, I'm gonna go over the warden. So, funny story about these wardens. Pull it up real quick. Their faction, Caldari Navy faction sentries. What they are. So I actually needed to get some cash on Rodin, on the tune Rodin, because you know, being in nullsec, like, oh, I need cash. I need to be able to buy stuff when I'm out there. I need ships. I need a VNI to rat in, or, you know, an exploration ship or whatever, right? Oh God, VNIs. So I cashed out my LP on my faction warfare character. So I cashed out 500,000 LP. Believe it or not, it didn't take me that long to actually gain that much LP, even being low tiered Caldari. It didn't. That's the really sickening part. It didn't take me that long to earn that much. It was like semi AFK, orbiting a button for like maybe 2 weeks. To put together that time that I devoted, like, you know, maybe 2 weeks worth of solid work to get that. So I basically, if you're to take into account the value of the exchange, so which was LP, the Tech 1 Navy Wardens, and cash, I effectively turned 480 million worth of Navy Wardens into 1.2 billion ISK worth of Caldari Navy Wardens. This exchange basically went from buying the buying the inputs, to making the exchange, to making the sales and completing them in less than a day. Less than the 24-hour period. So 480 million input turning to 1.2 billion ISK revenue. Pretty sick. And looking at that, I'm calling this as a buy simply because of the margins that it's sitting on, right? Or not as a, oh wow, that's definitely different after not even an hour. It's in a pretty, it's hitting a floor right now. I think it's worthwhile to actually catch it. Looking at it right now, 2.6 to, oh, I see what happened here. We've come upon this before, guys, where you have the highest buy order right here, 2.6 million, and you have two conflicting orders on the sell end. That's basically forcing the orders to end up here. So the highest buy order ends with 13 ISK, but the lowest sell orders ends with 15 and 16. So it makes you believe that it's okay to just dump your Caldari Navy Wardens to buy side as opposed to placing your own sell order. So that's what they're trying to do, because the actual the actual competitive sell order, realistically, apart from this little technique, is actually the 3.2. We'll use the 3.2 as a reference, not the 2.6 that they're trying to maneuver you into selling into their buy order. That's a 20% difference. So it's 20% profit before taxes. That's really good. That's really, even for a faction item, that's actually really, really good. All right, next item we're gonna look at, guys, is PLEX. So we talked about that earlier today. PLEX still seems like a really good buy of 3 million. So I'm gonna pull up the chart again, and the reaction we saw from the extractor sale, how it went up and went right back down to 3. I think that's incredibly indicative of 3 million being a hard floor for the PLEX. If I had more liquid, I'd totally buy more. I'm honestly not even that concerned with exit point right now. I know that 3.2 is a reasonable exit point. But I think I honestly think it can go higher, because think of the 3.2 exit point as an incredibly reactive result due to the short-lived extractor sales. There's a hype person in the background. Has my daughter sporting her school sweater. I'm on the mindset to actually I'm almost to the point where I don't even care what the exit point is. As long as I'm getting it at 3, I'm happy. I just wish I had more liquid. I really just wish I had more liquid. But that's why I'm calling it a buy, because the events of this weekend reinforces that hard floor of 3 million. All right, and the next set of items that we're going to be calling out for our buys is actually all of the P4s. All of the P4s. I literally just came upon this by accident too. I was just browsing my usual ways, my usual categories, and it's like, what the heck is this? Like, onesie twosies I can see, but the whole category is really strange. So we're talking about P4, so advanced planetary interaction material. We're not going to look at prices right now. We're just going to look at the appearance of the charts. So right now, it's basically showing buy signals that it hasn't quite found the floor yet. So I'm not sure how low this is going to go. I'm not sure how low it's gonna go. No, I mean, can we call the short plateau that it's in now as a floor? You technically could, but I wouldn't. Simply because, just using this as an example, because the median or the game calls it median, but it's actually a mean. The average prices are still falling well below the 5-day moving average line. And it's not in a consistent manner either, as far as an actual visual pattern is concerned. It's still dropping below it. It's still dropping below. So I would be afraid to call any kind of floor on the P4s right now. It may be a short-lived free fall, but it's a free fall nonetheless. But I'm calling it as a buy, but I wouldn't buy it right now. It'd be more of a observe and be prepared to buy. And when I say be prepared to buy in bulk, because when this evens out, it's gonna go up, man. It has no choice but to go up, to be honest, as a reaction to the price changes. All right, so buy signal on broadcast node. Same thing, integrity response drone. I'm gonna look a little bit more volatile than others. It looks like it's evening out a little quicker, but it's mostly because this Nano Factories isn't a very high volume P4. Getting more applicators, like a definite free fall, it's looking like. Recursive computing module, I'd be afraid to buy this. It's about to reach like 90-day lows, like for real. Most of these guys. This one may be closer to evening out, the self-harmonizing power core. Same with stereo conduit. Stereo conduit isn't really a incredibly volatile item, even when it's going through its swings anyway. Wetware mainframe. It looks like it's found a floor pretty quickly. I don't think that's the case. I think it's gonna continue to go down. It's gonna continue to go down for all of these. It's too easy. It's too quick of a call to make, I think, and I think I would be. I mean, if you really want to risk it and you have the cash, that's cool. But I think there's gonna be maybe some more short-lived opportunities to actually buy these when it goes even further lower than its current floor. That's all I'm saying. As far as how it's gonna react once it hits the floor, I think it's gonna be one of those classic drop in value, hit a floor, hit a plateau, and then figure out from there. I don't think it's going to be an immediate increase in value once it hits a hard floor. I don't think so. I think it's going to be one of those plateau things. All right, so those are buys. And for our sells of the week, I'm calling small scale injector. I really should be looking more at small scale injectors now that it's been in the game a little longer. Small scale injectors have been wildly volatile. So when I made the list here, we were kind of like right around here, but it looks like it's evening out. It's still technically a sell signal, but if you're sitting on some right now and you need to just offload something, I would offload small scale injectors for sure. The Donjon channel is a lot wider, it's a lot more volatile as far as the pricing on the positive end. If you were to compare this to a large scale injector, it's not nearly as volatile. The large scale injectors are a lot more stable as far as daily movements are concerned. If you're looking for something, if you're looking for something that you can bank on its volatility, that has high value and decent volume, like, I mean, 500 units per day, it's not a lot of items, But if you can babysit this, I think you can make a killing, man, on small scale injectors. I think it's worthwhile to do some speculative bets. I think it's worthwhile to do it if you are looking for something new to get into. I myself will probably be a lot more observant of this item and incorporate it into my own buys and sells. Eek says you just watched Extractors though. Oh, sorry. Good call. Yeah, there you go. So large scale injectors. It's not. It's still positive, but again, sorry. Good call on this Extractors. It's not nearly as volatile as the small injectors. Still positive. I'd still sell it, but I don't know. This would have been an easy sell on this part. All right, so that's the small scale injectors. Nice volatile item, but needs some babysitting. Especially since you're only pumping out a trade volume of 500 daily, just about, or just slightly above 500. Yeah, 600-ish, in the 600, 500 to 600 range. Yeah. Needs to be babysat. All right, I can't stress that enough. Needs to be babysat. Our next item is going to be the Proteus. I'm not sure what actually caused this increase in value in the Proteus. I think it's just the natural way the pricing works. It's just been probably oversold. Just when something is normally oversold and people, the price just gets too low, that it seeks to find balance again and it increases in value. Yeah, it's steadily climbing, you know. So I'm not sure if this is, but it's not like like one of those manic buys. You know what I mean? This is just people buying more of it than dumping it into people meeting the sell orders more than meeting the buy orders, as evidenced by the volume not really moving. So is it even flippable? I mean, it probably will be if more people are interacting with the sell side versus buy side, but that means it's gonna having your buy order fulfilled is gonna be a lot more difficult. It's 10% before taxes for a Tech 3. That's incredibly generous. I'd almost actually try to do that, but then I've gotten caught before in a setup just like this several times actually. The actual opportunity where you need to take a full advantage of is you need to babysit this. This is a babysit scenario. This thing can reverse on its, the values can simply reverse on its head so quickly, so quickly. If you're a guy who can't actually play during the prime time of Eve, I would stay away from this. I would pass this up. I would pass this up unless you're willing to take that risk of this thing, the price moving, and you're not there to actually react to it. You're not physically there to react to it. So I'd be careful. But if you are able to play Eve prime time, this might be worthwhile to babysit for a few hours a night. I think you can get there. I think you can get some good flips in this. All right, and finally, our last item is actually a full category of the exhumers. So that's kind of interesting. As soon as we get more word about the resource wars feature, however, we'll just put it up right now. The actual price trend on these as a category has actually been picking up for a while now. I just didn't see it. So disregard the price for now. I'm more concerned with the actual general price trend. Classic sell signals. Classic. If you got tons of these and you're not using them, or you're able to make them relatively quickly, I'd probably try to sell these. But it looks like it's hit the crest already. It's about to go down. So the really good opportunities to sell this might be passing as we speak. But so Hulk's great sell signal. Mackinaw's great sell signal, but it looks like it's topping off. And again, no real change in volume. Okay, go back to the Hulk real quick. Big change in volume there, but it looks like as soon as that volume change occurred, it starts to dip down. So natural reaction. Mackinac, no real change in volume. Skiff, no real change. Well, not really.
I know. You guys can get it yourself.
Not too much. But definite sell signals for the entire category of exhumers. All right. Hopefully somebody out there can take advantage of this, or if you're more knowledgeable on the production end, the moon material end, maybe this information will be useful for you. All right, so that's really all I got, guys. That's all our calls. I'm really curious to see how low the price trend of the exhumers actually come down to now that we've made the obvious call. It looks like we're catching it just as it's hitting the crest and it's about to go down anyway, so hopefully someone can still take advantage of this. Goblin Sean asks, any tips for someone who's looking to get started with very little knowledge? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I basically taught myself how to do this. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. A lot of people, the only thing I'd probably say is, a lot of people kind of will say, oh, don't start off in Jita because it's too competitive. But anywhere else, there's just not enough volume to play with. There's not enough opportunities to fail and learn. That sounds kind of strange, but you need to expose yourself to those. Eek says, don't create a Hulk army in a few months. Check. I'm here for you, Eek. I'm here for you. As far as don't be afraid to fail, Goblin Sean. Don't be afraid to expose yourself to opportunities to fail, as long as the failure is surmountable. As long as you can recover from it, that's fine. Because take that as a cost of learning. Think of it as your tuition. It's fine. It's totally fine, dude. You can. As far as what would you recommend for starting capital? I started doing this trading, like my very first activity for trading. I was trading Tech 1 ammo in a mission hub. Not even 5 million, not even 10 million. You know. Be more. I would say, don't get into trading if you need money. You actually need money, like, oh, I need money to buy PLEX so that I can stay subbed. Don't get into trading, because you're not gonna get there. Or I shouldn't say that. It's somebody can get there. It's just it's kind of difficult to get there from the get-go. Do it as it's a process, man, and there's no formula. There really isn't. You have to kind of know what style makes sense for you, what items make sense for you, what methods make sense for you. It's incredibly personal. It's incredibly personal how to do this. So skill is highly required. Definitely the ones that reduce taxes, but that's kind of not really as relevant as it used to because of the citadels. Goblin's like, I don't need money. I'm a null ratter. I'm looking for something to do with an alt in another screen. If you have the capital, play PLEX. Play the big stuff. If you have the capital, play the big slow stuff. You'd be surprised how much more forgiving they can be in the long run. So that's keyword though, right? In the long run. If you have the capital, play PLEX. If you have the capital, play injectors, because those charts are so easy to read, a lot easier to read. The fundamentals are a lot easier to understand, I think, because they don't really relate directly to the in-game stuff. It relates to real money, subscription price, player sentiment stuff. It's a little easier to understand, I think, versus plain old game mechanics. All right, well, that's a great question. Thanks, man. All right, so unless there are any other questions, I think we'll finish it off there. But when we come back, E Vegas would be done, right? Yeah, E Vegas would be done. And I'm gonna be curious to see what things get revealed, either by accident or on purpose, that will have effects in the market. I'm sure there's gonna be at least one thing, based on just the presentations. My daughter's crazy. All right, that's really all I got, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we're gonna have some more juicy things to talk about as far as presentations from FanFest. Hopefully there's some relevant stuff in there. Hopefully there's something new. That's one of my things. Yeah, anytime, Goblin. Hopefully Eve Vegas brings something new, and it's not just reiterations of things we already know, because that would make it kind of a disappointment for me. For a person not physically there to actually enjoy the company of other players, you know. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and of course, as usual, I'll have this up on YouTube before the night is out, so in a few hours, and hopefully we'll see you again next week when we go over hopefully some FanFest items and a review of our calls for this week. All right. Thanks, guys.